So if we go to verses 8 to 13, verses 8 to 13. 8 to 13. So this is where it really speaks about the covenant, this new covenant. I presume at least a few of us will already know the answer to this. Where is Hebrews chapter 8, verses 8 to 13 taken from? This is one of Paul's techniques. He does this all of the time, goes into the Old Testament, pulls out passages and repurposes them. The reason why that becomes important is because in verse 8, I was going to say what's the important or significant words here, but there's several of them depending on the point you want to make. But Paul's going to do something interesting. He's going to say, no, let's try and use a bit of Miller's logic, because people here have been looking at Miller's rules. In the context of what we've discussed so far, what's the key thought or the important words, the significant words in verse 8 that we now want to look at? And it's not covenant.
Mary.
Hi, Mary.
Hi, would that be 4? Verse 8, the word for.
And if it's the word for, tell me what the word for means for you.
What the word for means?
The word for, what does that word mean?
Well, what it means for me, it's like it's comparing what came before and what he's going to talk about.
So it's comparing before and what we're going to talk about. Is that right?
Yeah.
Could you substitute that word? This is the first word in at least in the King James, Hebrews 8:8. Could you give a different word than for?
Perhaps because.
Because.
Yeah.
I think that's what most people would gravitate to, because. So there's something, and because of that, there's going to be something. Is that correct?
Yes.
So if you go back to verse 7, you're saying that there was a problem before, and because of the problem, now there's going to be a change.
Yes.
Okay? Anyone else? Give a couple of words. I don't mind, but not being particular. Fault with them? So I've got the word for, which means because, and fault.
Olivina, don't you think that's the same thing?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
I'm just writing down what people say. I've not made any comment yet.
Okay.
You tell me what you think, not what I think.
I'm saying I think that for and fault same, because you're going to lead toward the same line, same reasoning.
Okay, so you're saying these are connected together because of the fault, if I can say it that way. Is that the point you're making?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
And is that a good answer for you?
Not sure, not yet.
Okay.
Not sure.
Have you finished? I wasn't sure if you'd finished your thoughts. Sorry.
I was just highlighting that for and fault are
I
the
got
same.
that. Yeah,
So
sure.
that's all I was pointing out.
I understood that. Then I asked you, have you got a position or a comment?
Not yet.
Yeah. Okay. You're waiting for whom?
Just waiting.
Okay. Good. Go ahead, Alyssa. Days. So someone said the word for, and the word for is essentially the word because. We all agree with that. And I'm not very good at grammar. What is because? Who's good at grammar? What is that? You're like nouns, verbs, and all that kind of stuff.
The reason why.
The reason why?
Conjunction.
Conjunction. So that's what I was going to go for. And who said that?
Linda.
So, Linda, can I say conjunction is a joining word? Is that too
Yeah.
child? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that too childish, and you said yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it is. So because you're just joining two sentences together, basically. Does that sound okay, Mary? That the word for, which is because, is just joining two sentences.
Yeah, it's joining two thoughts. Yes.
So if its purpose there is just to join two things together, I would suggest it's probably not going to be the significant thought in this, in what Paul is trying to share with us.
Okay.
Could be wrong. Look, it's just my thoughts. So Alyssa said, behold, the days come. So what is Paul doing? What are the days that will come, shall come, or have come? The last days. Yeah, last days. Yeah, the last days. And when would the last days be? If I were to, so we've got days here, and I'll put a timeline here, and I'm going to put Paul here. And this is 8-8, and he says days. Tell me what days he's talking about when you say the last days. You can tell me where to put it. Where I'll just put a tick on that line anywhere. Here?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so Kathy's saying here. Paul is saying the days in the future. Got that right? Is that yeah? Okay, but I've understood you correctly. That's what I meant. Okay. Anyone else? The days. Claudia? Look like you've got an idea.
He was taking a prophecy from the Old Testament in Jeremiah.
A second. He's taken a prophecy in the Old Testament from the book of Jeremiah, and you're giving us the chapter 31, because that's I asked that question before, and we didn't get an answer to that, I believe. So I'll put it now. You've given us the book and you've given us the chapter 31. Carry on.
And the prophecy was predicting that in all things, those are the last days since Jesus Christ came, those are the last days.
So Jeremiah is speaking about something, prophesying for which day? For Paul's day? Okay, so Jeremiah is prophesying, I'll say hundreds of years into the future, and you're saying it's at this point here. Carry on.
And he's saying that now we cannot go by works but by faith, because the covenant is different, it's changing.
So now we can't go by, did you say works? We can't go by works, we have to go by faith, because I'm going to just add one word, the terms of the covenant are different. And if I use the idea that George and Isabel had, it's not just obeying some rules, it's now from the heart. That's what those terms have changed. Yep.
Plus, I would define more specific what covenant is this, because this is a very specific covenant.
So we've got a general term of covenant, which is a contract or agreement, and you're saying, actually, this is a very specific issue that's being dealt with here. You can't just use these generic terms for covenant, something specific, and you tell us what you think that is.
It's an inheritance covenant. An inheritance is a specific covenant that you either accept it or reject. You cannot have anything. My father died and he gave me building or something.
So
I can reject it or accept it, but it's as it is. I cannot change it.
So this covenant, you're saying, is an inheritance covenant, and you're offered something and you can't make any changes. You either say, I accept it or I reject it. There's nothing you can do to modify. So that last bit? From God. So God offers you a deal or an agreement, and you can't change it. You have to either accept or reject. Anyone else wants to make a comment? Gloria?
Lines up with Jeremiah 31:31. It's the same thing. Hebrews 8:8 says the same as Jeremiah 31:31.
Okay. So Gloria wants to make the point that there's two doublings, 8:8 and 31:31. Yeah. And we wouldn't do that, would we? And 8:8 is a literal doubling of 4:4. I just did 3 plus 1. So we won't do that. Okay. So instead of asking the question, I'll give kind of the answer. So we'll give the answer and we'll sort of work backwards. But you might say, what answer is that? I don't know when this was now. Tahiti. This was in Tahiti recently. I did a presentation and I closed with this statement that said what? David? Oh, the way you're looking at me. The administration is good. Remember that? You watched it? Yes, story about the hammer. Ring any bells?
You mean Trump is good?
Yeah, so I just use the word administration because it's a wider context. So that study there is connected to this study here. And why is it connected? What's the connection? So, someone's got to tell me when we run out of time, because I think we've already passed
Same
time.
entity, same time, prophecy. It was about Babylon.
So, Olivine, if you could just repeat what you said.
Jeremiah was speaking about Babylon. The
So,
word,
Jeremiah is speaking about Babylon.
yes. So that's your connect. You're asking about the connection with the hammer that you were, the connection that you made with the hammer. You were looking at the rise of Babylon, right?
Okay. So, let's go to Jeremiah chapter 31. Jeremiah chapter 31. So who can really simply, so that we all can be on sort of the same page, when is Jeremiah 31? I don't mean, you may not know the year. I'm not asking for the year specifically, unless you've got an idea. You can't define the year exactly, but when is Jeremiah 31? What's sort of going on? Olivine's given us a clue. She's spoken about Babylon, for sure. Kathy? Destruction of what? Gathering of what? The destruction of Israel or the gathering of Israel? And the destruction of... Okay, so are those the same thought or two separate thoughts? Or are they the same thing? Okay, so you don't know if he's talking about the destruction of Babylon or the gathering of God's people. Okay? Say that again. So Alyssa is mentioning Jeremiah 50. So we'll hold Jeremiah 50 for the moment. So let's try to stay with Jeremiah 31. So 31:31 says, "Behold, the days come." So is that past, present, or future? Future. So that's future to chapter 31. So my question is, where or when is chapter 31? So chapter 31, they're already captive, Alyssa says. Anyone else?
Parminder, this is Bob.
Hi, Bob.
Isn't it referring to the 490 years and the culmination of that? The end of those days, was that what it's referring to?
So tell us what the 490 years is for the uninitiated like me.
I would say that's the prophecy. It's in Daniel, and it brings you. It goes from 457 BC, I think is where it starts off. I'm doing this off the top of my head, and I think it takes you to AD 34.
And you're saying these are the days. Is that right? If I understand correctly?
I think that's what I'm understanding, but I might not be correct. But that's what I have in my mind.
Okay. So I'm going to suggest that's similar to, if not the same, to what Claudio was suggesting. I'm not saying it's identical, but he spoke about the prediction in Jeremiah. He mentioned 31 that spoke about this present time here, and you've said AD 34, and here he said it's the days where I've got this arrow here that points to Paul's day. So it's very similar to what Claudio said. Anyone else? So I'm still looking for where Jeremiah 31 is, when that's happening. Okay, so let's do it this way if we're not sure. So this block is captivity. So captivity is essentially the ministry of Daniel. So is Jeremiah 31 at 1, 2, or 3? Multiple choice, 1, 2, or 3. Is it before the captivity, during the captivity, or after the captivity?
You're asking the entire when Jeremiah wrote the chapter.
31, yes.
It's during captivity.
So Olivine says here.
Yes.
So Judah has already been taken captive.
Yes.
Anyone else? Anybody disagree, or we're not sure? The reason why this becomes significant is if that study that was done in Tahiti, speaking about the present day administration that's being used by God to do a good work, if you agree with that, then you can begin to see, if you tie up that concept about the hammer that was done with Jeremiah 31, with Hebrews chapter 8, there's a period where you get the days are come, or the days are fulfilled, and in that fulfillment period there's a new covenant that's being offered to God's people, and we should know when that is happening. And the way you know when it's happening is by understanding Jeremiah correctly, and the timing of that, Paul's application of that, and then our present day application. And if you can get all those things to line up correctly, you can see, first of all, if we're understanding the time period in which we're living correctly, and if we are, then the experience that we should be having today. So
I have
Gloria.
a question, this is Elaine.
Just one second, Elaine. Gloria.
Opposite, before captivity.
So Olivine said during captivity, and Gloria wants to say before. So what makes you say before, Gloria? You've seen something?
Yeah, in verse 8 says, behold, I will bring them from the north country. So he will use Babylon.
So in Jeremiah 31:8, it says, behold, I will bring them from the north. So that's your marker to say it's before captivity.
Warning.
Okay. Elaine?
That verse was on my question as well. But if
Okay.
he's going to bring them from the north, if they're going to bring them from the north is Babylon, and they're going to be coming out of Babylon. Is that right?
So instead of asking me to answer the question, it seems to me that you're disagreeing with what Gloria is reading in verse 8. You're seeing it slightly differently.
Yeah, I might be. I mean, I'm saying they're captivity. Or that's what she's saying they're not in captivity yet. Yes, I'm saying they're in captivity, and the day will come when God will bring them out of captivity.
Okay. So I'm going to say we've run out of time now. So what I would like to do is give us all some homework. So what I want us to do is do some research overnight. Don't go to sleep. And find out when Jeremiah is, if it's 1, 2, or 3, because it becomes significant to our story. And you're saying it's after captivity. That's when Jeremiah 31 is written, after captivity. Okay, so we've managed to get 1, 2, and 3 between us. So we're doing well. So tomorrow, we want to try and come to a unified position if it's 1, 2, or 3. And let's close with prayer. Holy God, the study of your word at first often seems relatively straightforward and without controversy. It's only when we ask questions of ourselves, of one another, where you give us the freedom to explore what these words really mean, we realize that what we thought was simple and straightforward often isn't. We want to ask and pray that we can have a broader, deeper understanding of Paul's writings, of what he means by this new covenant experience, what the relevancy is of having a new priesthood, and when all of these things occurred, both in their original setting, in their applied setting, and how we should understand that experience today. Help us to take none of these things for granted. May we be able to see through the fog, through the haziness that can distract us and confuse us, and understand with a clarity that has escaped us in the past of what this new covenant experience means and its specific timing. We ask and pray for these things in Jesus' name. Amen. I know it's naughty to talk after the close of the study, but something that Claudio said, which I think is significant, is this idea of this covenant being something different. I don't know if he used the word special or specific, because if you go to Christians in general, they'll say, we've been in the new covenant for 2,000 years, which is true. But the way we need to approach these ideas is through this idea of when the days come. So I didn't answer directly, and I should have done. When I asked what was significant, I'm going to go with Alyssa and say it's the days. In Hebrews, in 8:8, it's the days that are significant, because this new covenant experience has been going on around for a couple of thousand years, but something significant changes when the days come. And that's what we need to understand intellectually and experientially, because there has to come a change in our experience. And God has been leading us slowly but surely down those steps. And that's part of what was being discovered or discussed last year in Slovakia about the change of the days that are upon us and how it affects the covenant that we've entered into or we're required to enter into with God. That was naughty of me to add that bit in, but it's what I might forget later on.